This is Ben McClintock
and Enoch Moore
with the Liberty Lineup Naked Truth segment, Thinking Right and Wrong, Not Right and Left, from defendingutah.org, sponsored by EOS Mobile, the only cell phone service supporting conservative causes of your choice. Join our grassroots network to get our updates and alerts. Just go to libertylineup.com. That's libertylineup.com and sign up. And if you like what you're hearing, support Liberty with a donation of any amount. That's libertylineup.com. And you can also share our Facebook page, the Liberty Lineup Radio Show. And we just got finished chatting with candidate for governor, Jonathan Johnson.
And boy, the time flies because we had a lot we wanted to talk to him about. But the time certainly flies when you got to take a break. And callers coming in, so he said he'll be back, and
I want to make sure that your questions get answered. And we wanted to. There's a bunch more questions we wanted to get to, and so we wanted to do that. And next time we'll make sure. And it's a hard balance between making sure that he can give a detailed answer,
right,
and then letting anybody, not just him. I'm not going to letting a guest or somebody talk, and so we can't get to the next subject. Right. So that's something we need to focus on. But we want to make sure that that we will be asking the hard questions. Hopefully you heard that with the interview that we just had with him, and we'll be back with him.
We got started with those weren't the hardest questions we wanted to ask, so we'll have him back. And he did ask us to put him through a rigorous interview process. He said that at the Eagle Forum convention, and so let's hope we can keep doing that and try to see where he really stands at the end of the day and what it might be like. So
right. So we're going to talk about Oregon, but before we get into that, I wanted to lay out some principles. And Sherilyn is there. I just texted her and asked her if she was going to call. Our host, another host of the Liberty Lineup Radio Show, Sherilyn Eager, has actually been right there in the thick of this, being with the Finicum family, if I'm understanding correctly, and can get us some good info on what the truth is behind what's going on. Sherilyn, thanks for coming on and talking to us.
Yes. First of all, the principle to know is that you can't trust everything you hear or read, and this is one of those instances. So we're here to help sort through what has happened in Oregon at that standoff. I'd like to, if we can, in the few minutes that we have, make 3 points. First of all, there are several stories that we're in direct contact with of what actually came down on the ground there when Lavoy Finicum, a fine rancher that many, many people respect, was gunned down and shot dead. Second would be, what do we do about this now? What do we say about it? What is this really all about is the third thing. So let me just, if we can, go through this very quickly. If you're out on the Internet and you are seeing videos or following Facebook posts, you have to know who the trusted sources are. There's a video that is out, and it's getting wide views from a guy that professes to have been there, seen the whole thing, and he is saying that Lavoy Finicum, the one who was gunned down, got out of the car. He didn't say hands up, but he said he was aggressive. He what was the word he is? He charged toward the men, the state, highway patrol and the FBI. And so then they gunned him down. Now, there's another eyewitness news that is from a much more reliable source from people that were actually in the car. And they are saying the details are all a little bit different.
Sherilyn, the first guy you just mentioned, he also said in his video at the end of his babbling in his video that, but I didn't actually see it, right?
Yes, absolutely.
So
yep. Yeah, and so everyone needs to know. Channel 4, ABC News in Salt Lake City called us about this. Talked to Jana Lee Tobias. Thank God for Jana Lee. She is an amazing woman, and she went on the news last night. They all have debunked that video. It's not a trusted source, and it's fake.
So the Mark McConnell video is fake.
Yes,
right.
So be aware of that. The one that is the...
So how did we verify that? Just so our listeners know, we're not just saying that. I want to make sure that they know why we know it's fake.
Here again, Janalee Tobias is the source working with Channel 4 News, who did the research on it. They've got the bucks to do it.
Gotcha.
And they decided that this is not
So Channel
a
4 has
reliable
officially
source.
debunked that video that said that Lavoie
Yes.
charged at the police
Yes.
officers.
Yes.
That's good to know.
So that is our only source on this, all right? Just want to make that clear.
Well, his own video debunks himself when he says he
Well,
didn't
it
even
does.
see it.
It does.
That's
He
true,
wasn't
too.
there to see it. And if indeed he was in the car behind, that was a mile back. So how would he know?
Right.
It's totally not
In the
credible.
dark.
And so let your friends know that, listeners. Secondly, the other report comes from an 18-year-old girl who was actually in the car with with Lavoie. And she was having a difficult time explaining herself. Obviously, she was quite agitated. She was not arrested. So you get that information. Her information is really in alignment with information we're getting from a very credible source, the most credible that we have, which is Ammon Bundy, who was there.
So it's two witnesses. You got Ammon and the 18-year-old that are witnessing and being witness to the same events, the same account.
Exactly,
of
but Ammon was in the car.
Right. Well, yeah.
Right.
And so was the 18-year-old.
Yes, and so was the 18-year-old. The details are a little bit different, but the end is the same. And that is that Lavoie got out of the car, both hands up, and whether or not he said, shoot me, just shoot me, that's what her account is. The other account is that he got out of the car, both hands up, and the trooper said down on the ground. He got down face first on the ground, face on the ground, and then the trooper shot him multiple times. Either way, this is
He was
called
down
shooting.
facing the ground?
Yes.
Wow.
And so all I'm saying is either way that plays out. Why is this not a police brutality report? Why is the left not all over this?
Because it's the federal police that did it.
So it was in cold blood. We know that from two sources who were right there. And so the details are what are looming out there, but this is a story that is going to continue to play out. I want to now talk about what's happening and how we respond. You have to understand that the news stories going out there and a lot of the commenters on Facebook and social media, they are primarily from the left. I've checked this out. I've spent all hours, all night long, investigating as many of the very negative comments that are out there. They are all
paid trollers.
hardcore left. What?
They're paid, employed trollers.
Well, many of them may be paid, and I have seen evidence of that. But even if they aren't, some of them that probably aren't, most likely, are representing the views of the hard left.
Sure,
They are
right.
pro gun control, and if you look at their Facebook pages, they are for the whole agenda of the left, whether it's pro-abortion, whether they are vulgar people. They put pornographic images up, and that's happened to my profile wall. I haven't appreciated that, but at least I've gotten the screenshots of all of that. So know that. So what do we say about this now, guys? Here's where it drills down. We can either sideline quarterback this thing and say, oh, what a bunch of stupid idiots. What did they even go up there? That wasn't the right time. It wasn't the right place. You know, they just egged it on and they got what they were going to get into, you know. Okay, we can do that and we can kill the cause. Or we can look at this situation and go, wow, you know, who is Lavoie Finicum? And why would he have done that? He stated, even before and after he was there, that he was there to die for the cause of liberty, and he was willing to do it if needed. And we do know from the text messages that I got from him, he was calm, and he had already resolved in his mind that he might not survive it. His family knew that. So, that said, how do we look at this? Is this a man who died for the cause of liberty? Should we walk away from him? and let him have died in vain? Or should we get to know who Lavoy Finicum was just a little better and find out why he died for this cause? And should we not carry his message forward and look at these constitutional issues that they were there trying to educate the people on? And that's my final comment here, guys. You know about the Constitution.
I've heard of it.
You've heard of it. And there
Unfortunately,
are
our
people
elected
out there,
officials haven't.
and there are people out there like Doug Wright on KSL.
Doug wrong.
If you're listening,
Doug
this
awful.
is a serious matter. You need to call KSL. You need to call Death
He was
Threat
horrible.
Management.
He was blaming
need to
Lavoy
tell
yesterday. It was sickening.
It was not only that he was blaming Lavoy, he was very disrespectful the day after this family of 11 children had lost their father in a very brutal, violent way. Right or wrong, he should have had the discretion to at least stop the mocking side of it.
Right.
Shame on him.
Yeah, it's disgusting.
And so don't listen to KSL. You complain. Listeners, complain to them. Call them. I think it's 575-5555. Call them.
Let them know that that's
Area
just,
code 801.
it's totally unprofessional. It's not. It's low class.
Yeah.
So,
Now I don't know if my clock is following yours. So I'm trying to stay within our limit here.
We've got 3
we've got
minutes.
about 3 minutes. And
Okay.
did you want to? In our another friend of ours talked about some things going on in the refuge right now. Well, are we ready to talk about that kind of stuff right now, or do you want to roll over or not at all?
we can talk about that. Yes, very quickly. Everyone, look at your Constitution, Article 1, Section 8, Clause 17. Read it carefully. There's no question what these men are doing is the right thing. All right, now let's look at what's happening. Ammon Bundy is now working with an attorney. The attorney came out and made a statement that they're asking for all of the protesters to leave. That's understandable. Not protesters, but the protesters are the guys that want them to leave, the ranchers and the people supporting the ranchers up there.
Yeah.
They're asking them to leave. And so it is our understanding they are leaving. This is not surrender, all right? This is a piece of the...
Are they able to leave? Because I understand that they're not. The FBI is not communicating with them, and they're trying to leave with white flags, but they won't let them.
We do have that scenario happening. And so what we have asked our informant to do is to call the authorities in Harney County immediately and let them know and record it that there are people stranded up there that did not have cell phone service to hear what was going on. They're still up there. They now know
because
that
the
they're
feds have
outside.
blocked off cell service, correct?
I don't know about that part of it,
Okay.
but they did not get the communication because their cell service is very sporadic there.
Gotcha.
So
Okay.
there is a husband and a wife that we know of. She's pregnant. They are terrified that they have missed the window of time to get out of the refuge area, and they are afraid that if they come out, they are going to be gunned down. So we are doing as much of the frontline reporting on this as we can.
So that seems really disingenuous. What the sheriff said yesterday, right after they murdered Lavoy in cold blood, says that that nobody needs to die, and then now they have this where they're not communicating with people that want to leave.
Yes, and we also have some intel that from folks sitting in the back seat of the car after they, were arrested, that the conversation up front in the car with the authorities there, and I think at that point in time they were turned over to FBI agents, is that they were freaked out that it had gone down as it did.
Okay, are you hanging out for after the break? Because we've got like 15 seconds.
Yeah, if you want me to.
Yes, please. Yeah.
Yes, please. Okay. And
all right.
So we are doing real reporting on this issue that you're not hearing anywhere else here on the Liberty Lineup Radio Show.
Yep.
And we're in touch with the other big news people on this, too, that we trust.
And we've got some callers calling in. But as we go to the break, thanks to our sponsor, EOS Mobile, where your monthly bill goes to support this show and only conservative causes and candidates of your choice. Go to EOSCEL.com for more information and mention the Liberty Lineup Radio Show. This is Ben McClintock, and Enoch Moore will be back next hour, again talking more about what's going on up in Oregon. welcome to the Thursday segment of the Liberty Lineup Radio Show. This is The Naked Truth, where we think right and wrong, not right and left. This is Ben McClintock and my co-host,
Enoch Moore.
Today we are talking about what's going on in Oregon. There's conflicting stories. We want to find out what the truth is.
And we have some breaking news.
With people that are there. What's really going on with the feds? What are they doing? Let's find out.
We gotta stay strong, 'cause everything's on the line. We gotta rise up, we gotta stay strong, to save our way of life.
We'd like to thank our show sponsor, EOS Mobile, the only cell phone service that gives you the peace of mind that your monthly bills are supporting only conservative candidates and causes of your choice, including this show. Call 877-367-7524. Be among the first 10 callers during the show, and you'll get a special offer if you mention the Liberty Lineup Radio Show. Call now, 877-367-7524. That's 877-367-7524. I'll say it slowly, 877-367-7524. That's EOS Mobile. Go to eoscell.com, eoscell.com. And just remember that you can listen to the Liberty Lineup online by downloading the K-Talk app to your smartphone, or k-talk.com, where you'll find our calendar of events and chat room. You've got to download that so you can hear the show no matter where you're at. If you're on a road trip, you can keep up on the Liberty Lineup. You can also like K-Talk's Facebook page at K-Talk Utah and post photos, to Instagram at K-Talk Radio, and tweet our handle at KTKK. Please help Liberty spread around the world. So
Ben, what we're talking about is really important and really
I think we need to let everybody
serious.
let this sink in of the seriousness of what this is really about. We've got Sherilyn Eager, one of our Liberty Lineup talk show hosts, that has really been on the front lines with this. Again, she said with Jenna-Lee Tobias.
And people who have been on the ground in Oregon.
Yeah.
Direct
Jenna-Lee, of course, was up there in Oregon, and I'm in direct communication with the Finicum family. I'm actually in St. Louis right now at a national leadership meeting with Phyllis Schlafly and others, and we're going to hopefully be able to have some discussion with them sometime today. So, yeah, and we're also in touch with some other major media outlets where we do have some friends and some trusted, people that are helping to craft this story in a way that will help capitalize upon the opportunity to move the struggle that the West is having with the lands issue.
Just to recap for folks that are paying attention, and it's kind of hard to catch up on everything that's happening. It's happening so fast. There's a couple of different accounts going on out there, and we've officially been able to debunk. It's false, completely false, the video that said Lavoie charged the police.
That was the Mike McConnell video.
And that's been completely debunked, and so we know that there's two independent witnesses that verify their story. The 18-year-old girl and Ammon Bundy are now verifying the story of what that the cops killed, or the FBI killed Lavoie in cold blood with his hands up.
Yes. Now, I need to let you know that Ammon, of course, is we think that he's in the Sheriff County facility with the others right now. So we don't have direct communication with him anymore at this point.
Right.
But these were first-hand reports that came in.
Are they giving him
right
bail?
after
Does he
it
not
happened.
have the cash for bail? Do you know anything about that?
I don't know that yet. He's got his attorney, that's working on all of that, and we are networked with a team that is all coordinated now with them.
Okay,
I mean, it's isn't it odd that the group of talk show hosts that are volunteer and don't get paid to do this are the ones that are out there trying to get the truth out? And I just want to take this opportunity to thank our listeners for staying with us. And we need your help. And if you want to support what we're trying to do here on these shows Monday through Friday, just go to libertylineup.com. And, your support financially would be extremely helpful for us so that we can increase the amount of social networking that we can accomplish in all of these stories
and
as
the
they
amount of
unfold.
places we can cover, right?
Exactly. And defending Utah, you'll be helping them as well. That's these guys. They're the truth seekers, and they're the ones that are on this Naked Truth show today for that reason.
So let's give an example right now of what the reporting we're doing brings us. Here, we have a breaking report. If you want to talk about this, there are the people at the Refuge and the white flags that are trying to leave. Can you confirm this? And the FBI is not letting them leave, even though they're saying we want no bloodshed. Can you speak to that?
Well, I just know that I got an SOS phone call from an individual who had communicated with a couple that called him desperately to say that they didn't get the message in time, and the FBI is not responding to their phone calls.
So the FBI says they want, or the sheriff says they want no bloodshed, but they won't respond to the calls of people that are trying to leave. So they've, after killing somebody with their hands up, they say they want no bloodshed, and now they've told people to leave that want to leave, and they won't talk to them to allow them to leave.
That is the logical.
Understand that.
That
Let
is
that
the
sink
logical assumption at this point. That would be the logical assumption. And I'm in touch with them, and I will let you. And if it doesn't happen before this hour is over, I'll let Jeff know for tomorrow's show. And listen in, folks.
Okay.
This is the core of what is happening up in Oregon right now. The news conference that Harney County and the FBI held yesterday, and you've seen maybe parts of it all over
the one where the sheriff lied through his teeth?
Absolutely.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Sheriff Dave Ward.
People need to know what that is all about. You've got to watch the news in a different light, you've got to have a different perspective. What are they trying to accomplish? Those folks were up there to set their legal case in place and to win in the court of public opinion. And know that when you look at news, you know that somebody is there to set their case for a reason. This is a legal case that's unfolding. They're covering their rear ends right now.
Right. Hey, Sharon, we've got a caller. We're going to take the call. We've got the money cleaner. The money cleaner?
The money clear?
You're on the air.
I don't want to be the money cleaner because it might be interpreted as laundering money, and that's illegal. So I'm going to go with mind cleaner.
Mind cleaner. Okay.
Mind cleaner. Okay.
Yeah, you can check me out at mindcleaner.com, the Patriot Portal. Cheryl, Lynn, I'm totally with you. I want you to know that I have so much to say about this that my mind and my heart are just pouring into my expression, and I know I'm not able to do it in the short amount of time that I have in these little calls. But I got to say that I'm really ashamed of Americans. There's a small group of callers that I hear that are wonderful, and I can hear behind their voice and the questions that they ask and the way they present themselves that they understand what's going on and what we're losing here. But I am I'm completely beside myself on some of the things that I hear people say. Now, it's almost as if the Tories are still in America. These people do not appreciate what the Revolutionary War has yielded to them. I've been trying to get on K-Talk and talk about the process. Last time I talked to you, I said, I believe in the process. Let's use procedure. Let's get the facts out there, and let's mesh the facts from both sides together, and let's get our courts back. And when I say let's get our courts back, probably maybe 90% of this audience, at least, has no clue of what I'm talking about. They just don't have factual information. Every time I ask for facts, they give me their feelings. They give me their opinions. They give me, I think this and I think that. And I said, I didn't ask you for this, for what you think and what you feel. I asked you if you know facts. And if you don't know any facts, then you don't deserve an opinion because you don't have any information to base your opinion on. You're just giving me some conjured nonsense out of your mind.
So what are you saying about the courts, about getting them back?
Well, you first have to understand that how the courts were taken out of your control and how they're being held out of your control so that you don't ultimately have control over the outcome of these things. So they're able to manipulate many aspects of what goes on legally. You have to first understand that, and it's not something that can be disseminated in a few minutes. And then you have to understand how to reverse that and how to get it back. So now, just to give you a very short synopsis, I can do paralegal work, but I am not allowed to go down there and file documents for these people. I'm not allowed to do motions for injunctions or anything. because I'm not a member of a private club they call the bar. Notice how there's no attorneys coming forward and saying, well, we're going to bring this to an end before anybody's dead, and we're going to really look at the facts. We don't really have a lot of attorneys that want to get involved or speak against the system. They actually have a law in their private club that they're not allowed to speak against the system, and if they are, they'll be disbarred. So they'll lose their license, and their license is given to them by the private club. So
right. The bar association, right?
So Monclin, I don't mean to interrupt you. I'm not trying to be rude. We need to get you to your point. Let's move forward to that.
This is why I'm saying that I can't tell you all that I would tell you if I had time to tell you.
Okay.
So I'm not advocating for pro se law. We already have that. I'm advocating that we are allowed to represent other people in court without having to be a member of their private club. And there's a whole argument that goes around that. But, some people, this is the rise of the idiocracy. I heard someone laugh about, they were going to go and learn to do the paperwork. Someone laughed about the idea of that. I don't understand what's funny about them wanting to learn to do their paperwork so they can process things legally. It's like this public and some of these talk show hosts, they're just mocking anything. It doesn't matter what you're trying to say, whether it's right or wrong. They just mock it's like a schoolyard fight, and everybody's just saying stuff and whistling, and nobody knows anything.
So it sounds like we need to
talk. I'm sorry, but I'm just really sick of listening to all of the nonsense. I want to see facts out there, and I want to see processes out there, and I don't understand why some people who take jobs like the FBI and they kill without question, they have this godlike power. I don't understand why we don't care about these people that are trying to stand up. Whether you think they're wrong or right, why do we not care about them? Why are we so willing to kill them?
Right. Thanks, Mind Cleaner. I appreciate your call. It's important that we do understand that the courts are right now, as we've seen with this case, that they've ignored the rule of law, and when people are trying to restore the rule of law, that they're not taken seriously.
And Mr. Mind Cleaner, sorry, I don't know what your real name is. Send us an email at info@defendingutah.org, and maybe we can hear some more about everything you're talking about. We'd love to talk to you about that off somewhere.
There.
Okay, so we have a little time before I enter the next break. 30 seconds.
Is there something as we go to the break that you wanted to make sure everybody understands?
Just to stay tuned to this radio show. We're going to be...
sorry, go ahead. You were kind of going in and out there, Sherilyn.
I'm sorry. Just to continue listening to the radio programs that we have 10 to noon. Okay. Every day we're going to keep updating and just to decide who you are in this movement.
That's what we need to really do. So as we're going to the break, we've got callers. We're going to continue talking about this topic and what's really going on and how there's conflicting reports, but we can debunk the false ones. This is Ben McClintock.
And this is Enoch Moore.
On K-Talk Radio, AM 630, k-talk.com. This is the Naked Truth segment where we think right and wrong, not right and left. Sponsored by EOCell, the cell phone service for conservatives. We'll be right back giving you the truth about Oregon. We are back. This is Ben McClintock and my co-host
Enoch Moore
with K-Talk, AM 630, k-talk.com with the Liberty Lineup Naked Truth segment where we think right and wrong, not right and left. Sponsored by EOS Mobile, the cell phone service for conservatives. And we were speaking with Sherilyn Eager, who's another host on the Liberty Lineup, about what's going on. She actually spent the night with as when Lavoie was murdered.
She was with the family the whole time.
With the family.
Yeah.
And then she's also been in contact with Jenny Tobias, who has been in direct contact with people there on the ground there with Lavoie and with Ammon, finding out what's going on. And some key points as we get into the hour, or the last half hour of the show, is that the video that says that Lavoie charged the police officially debunked. False.
Even though almost it debunked itself, when in the video he said, "Actually, I didn't really see it." Right, but
false.
But it has been officially debunked with which news outlet did the investigation?
Local Channel 4.
Local Channel 4 is actually.
So if they debunked it, I mean, it's kind of like it's like so obvious that there's no way that they can like twist it to be one way or the other. And so then we have two witnesses that back up the other story that's been going around. So out of the mouth of two or three witnesses, we've got two witnesses that say Lavoie was surrendering had his hands up, and they shot him in the head, and then afterwards shot him again.
Right.
And there have been over 150 rounds fired into the vehicle. And then, after this happened, the sheriff says, we don't want bloodshed. Too late, buddy. And then he says...
And after he said that, then he's lying through his teeth about, they should have gone through the proper channels, even though
That's what that was about. They were
Right.
going to a meeting with him.
through using the proper channels.
And then they were ambushed by him. And then and then we have, Ammon's telling them to leave through his lawyer. And so some of the people are trying to leave. They've tried to put out white flags. They've tried to communicate with the FBI, but the FBI won't respond.
There was another event in history where we saw federal agents just kind of acting on almost like a vendetta urge. I think that was in Texas, a place called Waco.
If you haven't watched the video, please watch the documentary Rules of Engagement.
Holy
cow!
And you'll see the behavior once something becomes personal to some of these federal agencies. They just don't care.
They don't about anything but so-called winning. And then you've got Ruby Ridge and shooting a little boy in the back, and then shooting a woman holding a child.
Right.
That's what we're talking about with the feds going on. And then now we've got a guy with his hands up being shot in the head.
And these are agencies that don't even have any federal authority to be doing the things they're all doing in the first place.
Any authority to be there, right? Yeah. So we've got some callers on this.
Let's take some calls.
Jason, you are on the air with the Liberty Lineup Naked Truth.
Hi, yeah, I wanted to comment on that previous caller, Mind Cleaner, I think he called himself.
Yeah.
I think what he was really alluding to was the difference between what's called admiralty law and land law, and they're two distinct things. We have the United States of America, and we have the corporation, or we have America, and then we have the United States Corporation of America. A lot of these laws that seem so contrary to the Constitution are legal because they're operating under a completely different premise. Most lawyers don't even know this. But the thing is it's the acting out of the admiralty law. We are not independent sovereigns. We are actually independent units of a greater corporation, and we're viewed as that way. And so most of the legal structure is set up around keeping us corralled within that, and it's literally the illusion that they don't want out.
Well, that's how we're viewed, but that's not natural law, and that's not the law of the land, the real law of the land, which is the Constitution. And so we can't submit ourselves to that system if that's what they're going off of.
That's exactly what they're going off of, and that is the intrinsic fight. The thing that, like the Bundys and all of these, militia groups don't seem to understand is that at this point the lines of delineation are so blurred that you've got to be extremely careful on how you're fighting back on these things. And
trying to go in through their system is a losing battle. The game's been rigged through that, as we saw with the Hammonds going through their case, as you saw with the Bundys, and as we see all the time. If you're going through their court system, you're suing the federal government, who hires a federal judge, and we're expecting the federal judge to go against the guy that's writing his paycheck. It's kind of ridiculous on its face.
It really is, and therein lies the conundrum. Therein lies the rub and the dilemma, and that's something that I still am trying to grapple with. Because on one hand, if you fire at or shoot at or make a stand against the federal government, you are then marginalized, demonized, and then the perception war happens. They will wait and sit on that to stew in the media, and then they have justification to come in and wipe you out.
Right. That's the dilemma we've all got to be. We've got more callers to get to, Jason. Thanks for calling in. Call back anytime.
And before we take the next caller, I want to speak to that. So the reason this is kind of relevant to this issue is they're saying that because of this court system, they'll never win through the proper channels in court. And I think in several press conferences that have happened with Ammon Bundy and over the past month, they've talked about the number of court cases for federal lands that have been in court. And I'm just going off of what I see. They talk about these thousands and thousands of land cases of people petitioning through the federal court system, and the number of times that the rancher has won was 0, according to the statements these guys are making. I haven't looked that up, but I tend to lean towards it's more
sounds
likely
reasonable.
accurate than not. And so where is the avenue for redress of grievances for these generations of ranchers that have been abused by federal overreach for generations?
Are you asking?
I'm asking.
Is that rhetorical?
It's a rhetorical question, so I'm not expecting you to give the answer. But the fact that there is no answer tells you there's no redress. There is no proper channel anymore. It's been taken from us, at least in practice, right? It's still there in theory.
Bring up the video. I hope we can play it. I want to play this. Look
Okay,
up
which video?
It's illegal to say by.
Okay. I'll look it up while you take the next caller.
So we've got a caller. We've got Larry. You are on the air, Larry. This is Ben McClintock. Larry.
Yeah, well, that sheriff was lying through his teeth. He's covering stuff up.
Yep.
You know what? The truth is they just want to kill them all. That's all it is. There's no communication going on or anything, and there won't be. And they won't let them go. I mean, it's like if I was the one that shot Michael Brown, I'd be in prison. If I shot Martin or who was the other guy? Darian Hunt down here in Springville or whatever.
Saratoga Springs, but yeah.
Saratoga Springs, I'd be in prison. They shot him 7 times in the back, but they get away with it. And then that funeral the other day was ridiculous. There was for that cop, I mean, you'd think God had died or something. But anyway, there was a dog that died, a police dog, service dog that got shot,
Some pigs are more equal than others, I mean, I didn't mean that as a pig, like cop pig, but I mean from Animal Farm.
In Canton, Ohio, and it was like the people there would have filled, it looked like the same as a conference center. There was like 25, 30,000 people there. And they had a little casket for this police dog, and the cop that, he was assigned to was crying, and I guess he was a, Iraq veteran because he had the high and dry haircut, and he goes, it should have been me, that took the bullets, Well, the only reason the dog got shot is somebody didn't want to start having to look around for a vascular surgeon, with their leg being ripped off or amputated. There was a dog that got shot in Utah today by a cop, and the cop says, well, he scared me, I had to kill him. But the thing is it's like this chamber thing with this concealed carry and stuff and open carry. Yeah, you can open carry as long as you got a chamber empty, but they're just telling you that your life is worth less than other people's. That's what they're really saying.
Right. And on that, it's a pretty silly thing because the training you get it's not real training to get the permission to put the bullet in the chamber.
Well,
it's just telling you what to do not to get arrested.
You need to concealed carry should be abolished. It's nothing but gun control, pure and simple. The man still got his boot on your neck, and you got to go get permission. That's why it's called,
permit.
Permit. You got to get permission to do the Second Amendment, which already has to keep and bear. Bear means to carry.
I don't mean to cut you off. We need to get to some other things. I want to get to your major point, though.
Well, they just don't want you to be able to protect yourself. The governor will probably veto it again. And,
well, he's promised to do it. And so that's why we need a veto-proof majority. And we had a veto-proof majority when it was vetoed last time, but the legislature was too cowardly to stand up to the governor and do the right thing. It's disgusting.
Yeah, they always cow down. And he has 45 highway patrolmen guarding him 24/7. 8 so many per 8-hour shift, but there's 45, 46 of them. But you can't believe anything the FBI says. I remember Waco and Ruby Ridge, Lon Horiuchi. He didn't want to admit he shot that woman in the head, the face, while she's carrying her baby.
Right.
And they covered that up for quite a while.
For sure.
And they also killed Kennedy and Martin Luther King, J. Edgar Hoover. The government was behind that.
Appreciate your call, Larry. Please call back anytime. Okay. So this reminds me, is they talk about in America we've got free speech. And I'm not saying that we should do what this – I want to show this video that kind of illustrates this in a humorous way. If we've got that triggered, there's a little comedy group called Whitest Kids You Know, and it's a video called "It's Illegal to Say." We've got that, Enoch.
Yeah, we've got it. Let's hope the board's working.
Let's hope the board's working. There you go.
I'm Trevor Moore. Did you know that it's illegal to say I want to kill the President of the United States of America? It's illegal. It's a federal offense. It's one of the only sentences that you're not allowed to say. Now, it was okay for me to say it right then because I was just telling you that it's illegal to say I want to kill the President of the United States of America. I'm not actually saying it. I'm just letting you know that it's illegal to say that. It's kind of like a public service. I'm letting you know so that you don't accidentally go out and say something like that. But what's interesting is that it's very illegal to say, I really, really think someone out there should kill the President of the United States of America. That's illegal. Extremely illegal. Very, very illegal. But not illegal to say with a mortar launcher. Because that's its own sentence. It's an incomplete sentence, but it may have nothing to do with the sentence before that. So that's perfectly fine, perfectly legal. I also found out that it's incredibly illegal, extremely illegal, to go on television and say something like the best place to fire a mortar launcher at the White House would be from the roof of the Rockefeller Hewitt building because of minimal security and you'd have a clear line of sight to the president's bedroom. Insanely illegal. Ridiculously, recklessly, insanely illegal. Yet even more illegal to show an illustrated diagram. Insanely illegal. Ridiculously, horribly felonious. Because they will come to your house in the middle of the night and they will lock you up. Extremely against the law. One thing that is technically legal to say is that we have a group that meets Fridays at midnight under the Brooklyn Bridge and the password is Sic Semper Tyrannis.
Okay. So... I hope you found that as humorous as I do, but it shows where, you know, sometimes when we talk about defending our liberties, when you've got the, it can get a little bit hairy. I know we had a meeting last Saturday with ranchers from southern Utah, and this is a big deal.
We were there. We were publishing a live stream of this.
And so if you're not a subscriber to Defending Utah's YouTube channel, look it up and subscribe so you can know about these live streams that we do and the videos that we post regularly. Defending Utah's YouTube channel. And
it's called Defending Utah Radio on YouTube.
If
That's
you go
the name
there,
of the channel.
if you search for that. And at this event, there was a communist there who was they weren't sure if he was the husband or the domestic partner or whatever of a BLM manager, a regional manager of the BLM. And he was there trying to say that the ranchers were citing in sedition and rebellion and armed rebellion and kind of nonsense like that. And so when we talk about liberty, that's the people that are against liberty always accuse you of wanting to do an armed rebellion. And it's something that is a way to be able to shut you down. And so we need to not be fearful to talk about the truth because somebody might say that something that's to get us to be quiet. We need to be aware of the tactics that are used to get us to not talk about liberty.
Be quiet, Ben. Don't say that.
And when they tried to, and they did actually, we had 2 county commissioners there, one of them that likes to swear on our Facebook wall, that tried to convince us to shut up about some topics.
Right. That's right. That did happen.
And tagged up on us to stop talking about what Ken Ivory's doing to undermine the ranchers and to make sure that they fail. That's what he's doing.
And those guys were the commissioners who started the American Lands Council. And it was interesting what Lavoy Finicum said on our show just before he died. He said the federal government loves the American Lands Council because that means the federal government will never lose because they keep it in the arena that they control.
Exactly.
Which goes back to the other comments we had from our callers today saying how that system is all controlled in their favor.
And it's really low class, first of all, of an elected official to go on a Facebook page and start swearing because it just, first of all, it shows that you have no argument. And then when they tag team and try to bully you to be quiet about a topic, that's going to make me want to talk more about it, actually. That's my personality. You tell me not to talk. You're from the government and you say you better shut your mouth about something. That's the next thing I'm going to talk about. And so it's important that we understand what were they doing that this communist would go and try to accuse them of being armed sedition.
Hey, Ben, I'm from the government, and don't ever say how awesome I am.
Ooh, reverse psychology. It almost worked. I almost said how awesome you were. Dang it.
All right.
Okay. So why would he do that? What were they doing that they would want to silence him? So that's what we're going to talk about when we come back from the break. What were they trying to silence the ranchers from doing? Because they were actually doing something that some of the bait and switch guys are saying, like Ken Ivory, saying that they're doing when they're really not. And so what is it that they were doing down there that we were able to cover? We need to, as we go to the break, we want to remind you that this has been McClintock with Enoch Moore, and this is the Liberty Lineup, Naked Truth segment, Think Right and Wrong, Not Right and Left, on AM 630 k-talk.com. We'll be right back after the break about what's going on with the ranchers in southern Utah. This has been McClintock, back with my co-host,
Enoch Moore.
Tell the difference between our voices yet? We are back on K-Talk Radio, AM 630 k-talk.com, with the Liberty Lineup Naked Truth segment, where we think right and wrong, not right and left. Sponsored by EOS Mobile, the cell phone service for conservatives. And we've been talking about this meeting of ranchers down in southern Utah this last weekend. We were able to go cover that, and we had a live stream of the event on our YouTube channel at Defending Utah. Defending Utah Radio is the YouTube channel. And if you're not subscribing to that, you should be. Defending Utah Radio at YouTube to be able to find out about the latest things that we either stream or that we post. And we've got a lot of great videos, showing people that are with Defending Utah, that are leaders in the liberty movement, productions that we've been able to put on there that talk about either the principles of liberty or the threats to liberty. It's something that you need to make sure and check out on YouTube. But
do you want to talk about the meeting?
The meeting in
Cedar City?
On Cedar City on Saturday. That's what we're getting to.
Yep.
So what did they do? So they had this communist there that was trying to accuse them of sedition and armed rebellion.
Right.
Because they did this crazy thing. What did they do?
They talked about their rights.
What? That is seditious.
Whoa. They talked about their rights, and they had an educational speaker talk about what is the law, and here's your rights within the law.
Talked about your rights within the law from a lawyer from, what was that, Texas A&M, came and discussed what the ranchers can do to protect their rights. That's pretty seditious.
Pretty crazy.
Woohoo. How did they not get arrested for such seditious behavior? Holy cow.
I'm sure if the communists could have figured out a way to make that happen, who showed up. This was a communist who's married to the director of the BLM.
The regional director.
Regional director of the BLM.
Regionalism. That's weird.
Regionalism. Yeah.
And so he was trying to cause trouble, and what they did was these ranchers were taking responsibility upon themselves to really reestablish the rule of law. These guys weren't rebelling. These guys were about reestablishing, restoring the rule of law. The rule of law. That's what they were doing. And so what they did, one of the things that they did was they filled out a letter of intent
to withdraw consent
from the BLM.
Right.
Because they recognize that the rule of law says, meaning the Constitution, says the BLM has no authority to be there in the first place.
And they even showed actual federal statutes that explained how they had, even actually within their code of laws, that
43 U.S.C. squiggly S's 1701 and 16 U.S. Code 1604 and several others.
They actually had the right to do this.
Right.
So it's
rule of law.
So any law outside enumerated powers is more like what some people might call a Getty-Anton law, right? And so even though they have these codes that kind of manage all these non-enumerated laws, they even had a legal out through that explained how they could withdraw their consent. So there's no arguing that they were not within any kind of law.
And they weren't being seditious. They were using U.S. code, and they were using the Constitution and natural law and just common sense.
Common sense.
Not being subject to a tyranny, etc. We've got a caller, anonymous. Let's see here. Are you on the air? Do we got you? My button's not working. Okay, we're going to try. Maybe, okay, hold on real quick. Oh, sorry, it's still holding. we are not ready for Anonymous, but we've got a caller on the line who wants to talk about a bill in the legislature. And maybe Enoch can press the button for me. Our call screener, we need some help on that, making sure it's all the way through and ready for us to take that call. But we want to make sure that as we talk about this, these ranchers, what the media is going to do, and the people that are interested and they have a vested interest. Like, for example, with Ken Ivory, and we talked about this before, they had another meeting earlier before this that they sent out their people to stop them from signing these notices of separation from the BLM. They went there because they have a vested interest. They have $12 million going to lobbyists, not lobbyists, but consultants. Consultants. $12 million taxpayer dollars going to consultants above their combined salary that they're getting from your taxpayer dollars.
It's a racket. Getting the lands back through the
courts and through legislation.
It's just a racket.
It's a 30-year racket is what they've been talking about. And
if they just nullify it and say, no, you can't do that, we're withdrawing our consent, and they're done with it.
They have a vested interest to make sure the ranchers don't do this. So they sent their guys there. We went there as part of our thing was to help them understand that they have this vested interest and to help prevent them from stopping them from doing this. And so I guess that maybe considers us co-conspirators in this horrible thing of actually enforcing the rule of law. But and so this event actually got them to sign these letters of intent of reestablishing the rule of law. And we
have a caller.
We've got our caller, Anonymous.
Anonymous?
You are on the air.
Okay, I'll go by Tony. That's my name.
Tony. Thank you.
So I used to have an interest shared with some friends in Henryville, which is down next to Bryce Canyon Park and a doorstep away from the, what do you call it, Grand Staircase National Monument that was made by Fiat. And there are people who are down there agitating for environmentalists, more land set aside under wilderness or national park protection with no visible means of support. So one day one of these guys who does that picked up his mail and opened it and went through it and then left, but he dropped one of his letters on the post office floor, so somebody picked it up and peeked through it and went, oh my, this is really interesting. It was a significant amount of money, a check from a law firm in Salt Lake City that represents environmental group interests for his living stipend. So there are conflicting interests of parties with lots of money. Ken Ivory's one. The ranchers don't have so much money, but they're in the conflict. And then you have the environmental groups. And for me, Ken Ivory is the epitome of when, I forget who said it recently, if we give the money or the land back to the states, it's going to go to private developers and their friends. So do you remember the Presidio was on the end of the San Francisco Peninsula? It was a military base for 100 and some years. And then when they demilitarized it and put it back into civilian life, it went to the friends and associates of the congressional delegation of California, which is mostly Democrat. So everybody's going to get a chunk of something if you're tied in with somebody that can cut you some money, and the people who own land or are still trying to lease grazing rights are going to be on the outs.
And that's what it goes on with the BLM right now, and that's what will happen if the legislative and judicial mechanisms that Representative Ivory is going through, it's just this crony.
It'll be favoritism
fascism
everywhere. When the government is picking who gets what.
And so it's got to go back to the counties, which will then manage the ranchers themselves. Appreciate your call. It's essential that we understand that we're not in favor of keeping the status quo. The BLM is horrible, and they don't have any legal right to be there. But that doesn't mean that the other solution out there that people are talking about is the way to go. This meeting down in Cedar City that the people that have a vested interest in this process tried to stop and tried to bully us out of is the real solution.
Right. The ranchers, absolutely. It's nullification. It's what the state could be doing and the sheriffs and the county commissioners could be doing
The good faith thing that Ken Ivory could do to say he was serious and this wasn't about his vested interests is to get a law passed that said the enumerated powers of the Constitution say the federal government's not authorized to do this. It's no longer in their hands. The end. Goodbye. Done.
Yep.
And so this isn't something that, again, establishing the rule of law. And I'm going to read something I think is really important is a principle that that I abide by, and it's not. It's from a leader of the church, but I'm not saying that this is the position of the church. I'm giving it more as a founder of Utah is saying this, and so that way we're not saying that this is the. I am not speaking for the church, and so John Taylor said that the law that governed this people was handed down by God. He said, "This law we shall observe and do. The Lord is greater than man. Man laws are artificial and not always wise. God's laws are divine and always possessed of wisdom. The laws of man," this is important, listen to this. John Taylor said, "The laws of man," this is where we want to go. "The laws of man may be ignored or nullified." The laws of man may be ignored or nullified. This is one of the founders of Utah, John Taylor. And he says that no nation on earth can prevent this principle, this idea, nor the nations of the earth. I defy the United States. And so he says the United States is and so he says that we have a right. It's a God-given right to be able to nullify federal laws or unconstitutional laws especially. And it's a principle that we need to understand, that we are upholding the rule of law. We wouldn't say that Rosa Parks was a lawless person because she refused to go to the back of the bus. We wouldn't say that Alexander Donovan was a lawless person because he refused to follow the order to kill Joseph Smith. We wouldn't say that the founding fathers were lawless because they defied the law of the land of the time, being the king. We wouldn't say that this isn't lawless behavior. What's lawless is what's going on with the federal government ignoring the Constitution. That's what's lawless.
And if you need a real good emotional visual to ponder about, what was that film? The Waco film.
Rules of Engagement.
Rules of Engagement is. I recommend anyone look that up on YouTube if you really want to understand what it is that they're dealing with in Oregon right now as they surround the refuge and they're not letting people leave that want to leave.
It's important that there we go. That we get that. It's that it's this psychological game that is being played with us right now.
It is a game.
It's a game.
It's a manipulative game.
And they're using this psychological doublespeak, this Orwellian doublespeak of freedom is slavery and slavery is freedom, saying if you're trying to enforce the Constitution, then you're against the rule of law. And if you're in favor of violating the Constitution, then you're in favor of the rule of law.
That is exactly what they're saying.
That's exactly what they're saying.
As they're claiming follow the law, they're advocating laws that are against the law of the land. And as they're saying you're not following the law, it's because they actually are trying to follow the law of the land, the Constitution.
Right.
It's totally doublespeak. That's a great point.
And even if we need to understand, like John Taylor said, the laws of man may be ignored or nullified. I mean, that's huge, because he understood that principle of natural law, and that what our country was founded upon is that our rights come from God. No other nation on the earth, every other nation on the earth is founded upon the idea that your rights is based on the divine rights of kings, meaning your rights come from the government. Our country was founded upon the idea that your rights come from God, and that government's sole role is to protect those rights that were given to you by God. And so as man's law violates that principle, we have an obligation and a duty to ignore and nullify that, either personally, locally in a community, county, state,
whatever.
Every level.
Ideally, legislatively, if we had legislators that understood.
But if they ignore that and they violate that, then it's our duty to follow the example of the Founding Fathers. Follow
and we're
the
out
example.
of time.
And so, as special thanks to our show sponsor, EOS Mobile, the cell phone service that supports conservative candidates and causes. Go to eoscell.com for more information. Mention the Liberty Lineup radio show. Tomorrow, we've got the Hollywood Y Guy with more breaking news of what's going on in Oregon. This is Ben McClintock and Enoch Moore. We'll be back next Thursday, 10 to noon. Go to defendingutah.org. Now, go out there and stand for truth.